So it's now over 6 months since I first started the workshop build, and it's been a nightmare. Lots of pumping, lots of digging, and everything around the area keeps on collapsing. County Council aren't willing to help, and they're telling me not to pump the water into the street. Unfortunately, when I don't pump the water away, this is what happens. The council say they don't have the funds to help. They've told me that I need to divert the water into a manhole that they installed on my property 20 years ago when I had a similar issue way back in 2000. The problem is the manhole is now covered up by some concrete flags. So for a bit of background information, I bought the property in the late 90s and I soon discovered there was water pooling near the house. The water just wouldn't go away, so I dug a channel to the pavement in the hope that it would disappear. However, this wasn't to be the case. The councils were concerned, so they dug up most of my garden to find the main surface water drain and installed a series of manholes to help guide the water away. The assumption was that it was an underground spring that I'd found. I've now got the challenge of finding this manhole. It's also worth mentioning at this point that I've had several visits from the Environmental Health Team and United Utilities. The entire drain systems have been dye tested, but they stress that it's still a matter for the County Council to deal with. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the wind blew over the camera and broke it. Starting to feel pretty stressed now. At first things were looking promising until I realised the water, which was now believed to be coming from an old land drain system, was 1 metre below the manhole, meaning it needs to rise up 1 metre before it can actually get into the manhole. At this point I made a temporary connection which takes a lot of the water to the manhole, but there's a lot still leaking through the soil. At this point I think the stress of it all got to me. I became quite ill as a result and we had to get a machine in to clear some of the soil as I just didn't have the energy to do it anymore. The decision to get the machinery in ended up leading to us discovering what's actually been causing us problems for the last 20 years with this area being wet, and it wasn't what we initially thought. Luckily, we were able to piece all the footage together and use the findings from United Utilities and Environmental Health from the dye testing they carried out several weeks before. After the council installed the manholes, we built a decking platform, but it failed quickly, as did a second one and a gazebo. When we dug for the workshop, we saw water sprouting up from the back left area of the trench, eventually flooding the footings. Initially, we thought it was the pipe that was running under the house that had caused the area to be flooded. What we now know is that this pipe did cross through the dig area, but it was blocked with mud. Water had backed up through a series of land drains, and that's what was flowing underneath the house 20 years ago. However, when the council came and installed the manholes, they placed one of the manholes on a land drain pipe which has been diverting water to the dig area and soaking the soil for 20 years. Unfortunately, once we uncovered all the system, we inadvertently unblocked the culverted water course, rendering the manhole useless, and all the water was now coming through the lowest point into the dig area. The council won't allow this water to be diverted into the sewer across the road. They want me to build a system that allows the water to back up with so much pressure that the pressure will force water upwards by 1 metre. It's a crazy system, but I'm left with no choice. It also puts around 20 other homes at risk because of the volumes of water backing up underneath all the other properties. What's also frustrating is that I found a blocked up pipe which goes under the pavement and towards the sewers. There's a chance it could be the original intended outfall for the land drain pipes, but the council told me to ignore it, fill it in and forget about it. So it's time to divert the water, fill in the trench and fix the manhole. It also means I'll have to build a workshop on some sort of concrete raft now, but that'll be something for part 3. And I apologise in advance for my lack of skill in using some of the groundwork tools. I'm not a builder, but I'll give it a go.